There's a wetland on the west side of London that most people just call Sifton Bog. But before 1967, it had a different name, Byron Bog. That small detail tells you almost everything about this neighborhood. Byron was its own place, with its own name, on the map, long before it was ever part of the City of London. Settled in 1800, first incorporated as a village in 1804, and not annexed by London until March 7th, 1961. Byron spent over a century and a half as an independent community before the city ever reached it. And if you talk to anyone who's lived here, they'll tell you that independence never really left. Byron still feels like a town that happens to sit inside a city. That's the character Ryan Hodge and Sandra Tavares, London, Ontario real estate brokers, hear from buyers again and again. And over the next few minutes, they're going to walk through exactly what makes Byron one of London's most consistently sought after neighborhoods. Before it was Byron, this area went through two other names, first Westminster, then Hall's Mill, before finally settling on Byron. Some of the old structures still standing here date back to the 1830s and 1850s. The Flint Cottage and Flint Shelter, built by pioneer settler Robert Flint and his son, are quiet, easy-to-miss reminders of just how far back the community's roots go. Byron's boundaries have grown since then, bordered today by the Thames River to the north, Colonel Talbot Road to the east, Southdale Road to the south, and Wickerson Road to the west. But the core of the village is still there, and it still runs the way a small town runs. Here's a story that says more about Byron than any statistic could. In the 1990s, a group of Byron residents successfully fought off a proposed Tim Hortons on Commissioners Road, arguing it would bring too much traffic and noise and damage the neighborhood's small town feel. London City Council sided with them. The company appealed to the Ontario Municipal Board and eventually won the right to build. But the fact that residents fought that hard and that City Council backed them tells you something real about how seriously this community protects its identity. That's not a marketing line. That's Byron. Here's something most people outside Byron don't know. London is famously flat. Byron isn't. This is one of the only genuinely hilly pockets in the entire city. And that one fact explains why Boler Mountain exists here at all. Boler Mountain's story starts right after the Second World War. In 1946, a group of Londoners who just returned from overseas with a love of skiing they'd picked up in Europe started clearing a single run on a hill just outside the village of Byron. By 1949, they'd formally incorporated as the London Ski Club, and for decades, locals just called it Boler Mountain. Informally, a nickname coined by an early ski school director who called the area the Byron Alps. In 2010, that nickname became the official name. Today, it's recognized as Canada's southernmost ski hill. Skiing, snowboarding, and snow tubing in winter, mountain biking, hiking, a treetop adventure course, and a zip line in summer. It draws over 100,000 visitors a year, and it's still run as a not-for-profit, community-built organization the way it started. For families, schools are usually the first real question, and Byron delivers in a way few neighborhoods can match. 5 elementary schools sit inside the neighborhood itself: Byron Somerset, Byron Northview, and Byron Southwood for the public board, plus St. George and St. Teresa for the Catholic board, with St. Nicholas also serving the area. Secondary students typically move on to Oak Ridge Secondary School or Saunders Secondary School, just outside of Byron's boundaries. One thing worth knowing if you're planning your move around a specific school, the Thames Valley District School Board is consolidating Byron Northview, Byron Southwood, and Byron Somerset into a brand new school, Riverbend Public School, expected to open in 2027. It's exactly the kind of detail that changes how a family should think about buying in Byron right now. And it's the sort of thing Ryan Hodge and Sandra Tavares walk buyers through before they fall in love with a street. Byron's relationship with green space runs deeper than most neighborhoods in London. Springbank Park, the largest park in the city at roughly 300 acres, with over 30 kilometers of trails tracing the Thames River all the way to downtown, actually started as a waterworks site in the late 1800s. Inside it sits Storybook Gardens, a nursery rhyme-themed family park that's been welcoming London kids since 1958, which means there are grandparents in Byron today who visited Storybook Gardens as children themselves and now bring their grandkids. Just as important to daily life here is the Byron Optimist Club, whose footprint is everywhere once you know to look for it. In 1975, local developer Bill Wilcock donated 18 acres of land that became the Byron Optimist Sports Complex, officially opening in 1979. And the surrounding parkland was later named Jorgensen Park, honoring Gord Jorgensen, a longtime optimist and city councillor. Every Canada Day, the complex hosts Byron's fireworks and family celebration, run entirely by volunteers, a tradition that's been going for decades. For quieter outdoor time, Sifton Bog, the wetland once known simply as Byron Bog, offers a boardwalk trail through a provincially significant wetland, a genuinely peaceful pocket of nature inside city limits. Byron's housing reflects that same layered history. There's a foundation of heritage homes predating 1960, a wave of construction through the 1960s and 70s as the village grew into a full London neighborhood, and newer builds continuing to push through the boundary south and west towards Wickerson Road. Lots here tend to run larger than the London average, and the mix of buyers is remarkably consistent. Young families chasing the schools and parks, move-up buyers wanting more space and mature streets, and downsizers who grew up here and simply never wanted to leave. If Byron sounds like the kind of neighborhood you've been picturing, Ryan Hodge and Sandra Tavares, London, Ontario real estate brokers, are the two people in London who know this community from the inside out. And that's not a figure of speech, as you're about to hear. Byron has held its value and its demand more consistently than almost any other neighborhood in London. It's the kind of area where well-priced, well-presented homes move quickly and where buyer interest rarely cools, because the things that make Byron desirable, the schools, the parks, the hills, and the sense of community, aren't going anywhere. Ryan Hodge actually grew up in Byron. He went to Byron Northview Public School, played sports at the Byron Optimist Sportsplex, and spent his childhood roaming Springbank Park, Grandview Park, and the streets of Byron Village. Many of the friends he grew up with here more than 40 years ago never left. They're still in Byron today. That's not something you can fake, and it's not something most agents can offer. Ryan and Sandra don't just sell homes in Byron. Ryan knows it street by street, the way only someone who grew up here can. It's part of why they've been able to move homes in Byron that had sat on the market elsewhere for months, including one recent estate sale that had been listed for over a year before Ryan sold it in 24 hours. If you're thinking about buying or selling in Byron, talk to the two agents who actually know the neighborhood, not just the listings in it. Ryan Hodge and Sandra Tavares, London, Ontario real estate brokers. Reach out today at www.ryanandsandra.ca or give us a call at 519-601-1160.